Europe's virus of debt contagion has spread within the last few years, and right now we have Greece in their uprising, which itself is spreading to Spain. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's get into this right here, talking about Spain, talking about Greece, and how this affects the global economy. Look at this right here. You just killed the Troika. Who said this exactly? That's the Greek finance minister dropped the bombshell saying, and with this, if you want, and according to the European Parliament, flimsily constructed committee, we have no aim to cooperate. Thank you. He was referring to the Troika, of course. This is basically the EU, the IMF, and the European Central Bank working together, not to support the economy of Greece, but in fact to tear it apart. And that's what's been happening. And this new government is aiming to get rid of the Troika's stronghold on that country. So this right here, at least on the surface level, is good news for Greece and good news for the whole world, in fact, that people can get to the streets and they can make a difference. Of course, only time will tell. We have heard many times before how a particular party or a particular candidate promises everything in the world and never delivers. So we'll see where this goes. But there is definitely reason to be hopeful. ECB, no lending to Greek banks if no deal by end of February. They are setting a time limit on this. This article is out of Reuters. A deal on extending Greece's bailout deal must be found by the end of February, or the ECB will not be able to continue lending to its banks, according to the ECB member here. And essentially what we have is a situation where they are in far more debt now than they were prior to the crisis unfolding. So we obviously have a problem where the Troika is only making it worse, but here they are trying to get out of that right now. The Europe bailout program for Greece, part of a $240 billion or $270 billion rescue package along with the IMF, expires on the 28th. So if they don't pay up, they're going to be in big trouble. So this is where the new government comes in and has to make some rapid decisions. What they'll do, I will be covering that here, so stay tuned. We'll see where it goes. If they don't pay that debt back, there is going to be a big mess. We don't plan to cooperate with that committee. The Greek state has a future, but what we won't accept has a future is the self-perpetuating crisis of deflation and unsustainable debt. This is the finance minister saying this. And essentially, they're going ahead and suggesting that they're not going to play ball with the Troika. So they are standing up against this evil force that has been pushing the economy into a continuing worse direction. How exactly, though, will they be able to fight against the powers that be? That is what is really the biggest challenge. They're in these bailout programs, and there have been governments previous that have been complicit. So they need to reverse these policies, and it will absolutely, positively not be easy, at least in the short term. And then we go out into Spain. Podemos march for change. Huge crowds rally in Madrid to support Spanish leftist party. So they are doing the exact same thing that is happening in Greece right now, but look at the absolute massive amount of people that have collected together, hundreds of thousands of people collecting in this square here to demonstrate, saying, we want the old guys out and we want the new ones in. And this party is very similar in many ways to the Syriza party. So let's get into this right here. The political class has lost all credibility, and these are the individuals that are stuck in a big and bad situation. The government today has its former treasurer in jail for corruption, and the banks were bailed out with 40 billion euros of European money. But the government refused to call it a bailout. That's what they're dealing with right now. Such a bad situation of mass corruption, and it becomes public and still not taken care of. In Europe, they openly support Syriza, which won national elections in Greece, which has pledged to challenge the austerity measures imposed on the country by the EU and the IMF. So what's happening here is we have a situation whereby this Spanish party, Podemos, is basically using the strength that has been gaining over the past year, going from essentially nowhere up until this popular party enough to get hundreds of thousands of people to come on the streets. So this is obviously using the steam from what happened in Greece, using that to propel itself forward. In my book, I was talking about what's happening with Ireland, Greece, and Portugal, and then I said their debt is just too much for them to handle, and the cracks have begun to show. Spain and Italy are also highly indebted, and the contagion could easily spread to these two highly vulnerable countries. And then I get into more information on that, but essentially I knew that back when I was writing in 2010, 2011, published in 2012, but what I wanted to say here is that obviously you have the Euroviral debt contagion. It cannot be contained. It's contagion. It's going to spread. It is a virus, and I knew that back then, not because I have a crystal ball, because it's pretty easy to see that the decisions they are going to make with the IMF, with the Troika, are obviously meant to hurt them. It's very, very easy to see where that's going. And this basically continues on, and essentially just wanted to say this is Podemos, often expressed its support for some of the policies of the left-wing governments in Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, and essentially saying that they support Syriza. So that's all I'm going to go into for this right here, just showing you how badly people are really they're desperate for change, and they will do whatever it takes to get that. And we had in the US back in 2008 and again in 2012 where we had hope and change promised to the people, and there has been a very, very big failure. So let's hope for better times here in Spain as well as in Greece, and hope they don't get the same Obama story that we have seen for 2 election cycles now. And this extends on to what I wanted to get into, the global economy. Mortgage frames negative rate for the first time. This is actually a translated article out of Denmark. They're actually bring money back to individual customers instead of charging them. How incredible is it that they're giving away the home essentially for free when you think about it? Negative interest rates. They are borrowing at a rate, I've never seen this before, never heard of it, but here we are at a negative interest rate for the housing market. That's what you want to do when you're desperate to keep the housing market alive. Now, this also, of course, connects into what's happening with Greece, with Spain, with Italy, with Portugal, because you have countries in very, very bad situations, particularly in Europe. They are way, way too far into the debt, and they can't get out. They're not going to get out if they continue on this trajectory. So, of course, they will go to the deepest measures possible. And in this case here, they will resort to negative interest rates. That's both on the bank side as well as in things like this with housing. And right here, last but not least, talking about how they had almost all Japanese government bonds trading with positive yields this week. But last week, around 1.8 trillion of them were trading at a negative yield. The negative yield was 3.6 trillion last week, or 16% of the JPM Global Government Bond Index. 3.6 $1.6 trillion worth, trading at a negative yield. People are actually investing money, or I should say these computer algorithms are actually investing money knowing they're going to get less back. And that's how desperate the situation is. That's how bad the economic sector, and it goes to show you how fragile the political sector is. And we see this going on, not just in Greece, not just in Spain, but it's happening globally. This is a problem that cannot be fixed by using the same policies we've had in the past. We need radical change. Change for the good, not for the worse. If you found this informative, please give me a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe onto these videos. There are over 15,000 Money GPS subscribers. Hello to each and every one of you. Stay tuned for some new info. I'm working on the website. It is definitely occupying some time trying to get back to all the emails. I'm really struggling to get back to everybody, but I do reply to each and every one of you that emails me, so please, you can do that at david@themoneygps.com. But in fact, the best way to get a hold of me, which I reply within a few days generally, is at the Insiders, and the best way to get on there is to go to themoneygps.com. You just scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.